Well, good morning and welcome everybody from Calgary, Alberta. I'd like to welcome everyone on behalf of Western Canada. As I know, it's nice and chilly here in Calgary today. We've had some really snowy weather. And so I got up really early to make sure that I got here in time with the icy road. So hopefully our friends from Iceland are feeling a little bit at home today. And we're so glad we're all together for the conference. But before I get started, I just wanted to thank the Icelandic Embassy in Ottawa and the Ambassador of Iceland for hosting and for sharing your personal remarks. They were very touching. I also want to thank Her Excellency, the Right Honorable Mary Simon, the Governor General of Canada, for your remarks and for your um, belief in the work that we're doing with our Indigenous parallel. And I also want to give a personal thanks to Honorable Yara Sachs, Canada's Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, and for your opening remarks this morning. And I really enjoyed our visit when you came to Calgary to learn a little bit more about Planet Youth and the time that we had together. Thank you for being a big champion of the work that we're doing with our youth. And a big thank you to Jan and the Planet Youth Guidance Program for bringing us here today. So I'm really excited to be here with you to share our passion for the work that we've been doing in Calgary for the last few years to really help our youth reach their full potential. Calgary itself is built around two rivers, the Elbow and the Bow, but we also have rivers of poverty, mental illness, social isolation, and unhealthy relationships running through our city, each intersecting and threatening the health and well-being of our community. But the United Way is here all along the river, catching those who've been swept downstream, while we also work to address the upstream issues that create the conditions for them to fall into the river in the first place. Together, we help those drowning and go upstream to prevent our friends, neighbors, Calgarians, and youth from falling in. As Desmond Tutu once said, there comes a point where we need to just stop pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. And United Way as a movement does this by bringing people together to solve complex social problems to improve lives and by leveraging our position in the community. So why Planet Youth in Calgary? Well, we know that Alberta youth have one of the highest rates of first contact with the emergency department for addiction and mental health issues in Canada. 40% of older teens in Alberta report that their child's mental health is much worse compared to before the pandemic. We know the pandemic played a role in the youth mental health crisis, but it's not the only factor. 70% of mental health and addictions begin before age 19, and only 20% receive effective care. So, in our assessment, it was identified that Planet Youth provided an opportunity for a collaborative partnership to address a systems gap in prevention. We were intrigued that Iceland's prevention model had made significant impact over a 25-year period. We learned they went from having one of the highest youth substance misuse rates in Europe to one of the lowest in the world today. They have achieved what many have tried and failed to do, and that got our attention. The results are impressive, but equally impressive are the way the model addresses the wider social environment, that youth experience. It's about working in partnership very early on. It's about mobilizing communities to address the physical and mental health of youth and to make certain that they're equipped and supported to have a real shot at achieving their potential. And it's also about having an evidence-informed, community-based process to create healthy and active outcomes for our youth. We also know that the youth voices are so important. And in Calgary, we introduced an Indigenous parallel. We saw that Planet Youth was being adapted and implemented in more than 14 countries. We saw the impact this model can have at scale. Now, of course, Calgary is very different to Reykjavik. So we set out to create a made in Calgary solution to prove the efficacy of the model in our city. We know that our impact is greater when we work together, so we looked for some organizations to help us implement Planet Youth. So I want to acknowledge Muskanawa Community Services, the YMCA, and the Trellis Society. We're so proud to be working together in partnership, along with many others, to get this initiative off the ground. We also engaged a multidisciplinary research team led by Dr. Paul Arnold at the University of Calgary's Matheson Centre. We're also working with Indigenous scholars from the university as well to inform the parallel. Dr. Michael Hart, Dr. Pamela Roach, and Dr. Jennifer Marcades, and some of them are here at the conference. Calgary is first to implement the model in Western Canada with a city of 1.4 million people, and the first in Canada and the world to develop this Indigenous parallel. It honors Indigenous ways of knowing, being, and doing, and is being developed in partnership with elders, Muskanawa, our Indigenous Serving Agency, and what we call youth elders. The parallel has already garnered recognition in Canada and internationally, and you're going to hear more about this from my colleague who's at the conference in person today, Joanne Pino. So please make sure you go and say hi. We're excited to adopt the model to our context, and we're starting with 4 neighborhoods with a vision to scale it across Calgary and our province. We've got a powerful coalition that includes our municipality, social sector agencies, community and faith-based groups, parents, educators, school boards, researchers, and academics. And one of the reasons it fits so well is that Planet Youth is the natural evolution of work we're already doing in community with All In for Youth. That is our large-scale high school completion initiative. Over 10 years, All In for Youth grew from 2 high schools to every high school with our big school boards. We moved the needle on high school completion rates from 75% of Alberta's students completing high school in time to 87% of Calgary students completing school on time today. So we believe that this model gives us the tools to build on these results and go even further to improve the lives of our youth in Calgary. And so as we speak, our school survey is happening across our 8 high schools to collect baseline data on negative risk factors and protective risk factors. This data is going to be used to gather insights and learnings to inform our investment decisions in each community. Our team will be working with the Planet Youth sites across Canada and with the Planet Youth Knowledge Hub at the University of Waterloo to leverage the insights of the data. We're at an exciting moment for Planet Youth in Calgary. The 4 community local action teams and the Indigenous Parallel have hosted over 200 events and programs this year with over 6,500 attendees, with 3,200 of those attendees being youth themselves. And we have had 14 youth circles with over 180 youth. Our investments in the community and the work of the teams are already making a meaningful impact. Things like drop-in programs after school, quality recreation opportunities and safe spaces, parent and youth engagement sessions, youth leadership, mentoring, employment, and empowerment opportunities, looking at ways to address diversity, equity, and inclusion, and of course, our Indigenous parallel. We've been able to achieve all of this because of the strong network and support that United Way has in communities across the country. Our donors range from major corporations, transformational philanthropists, individual community donors, and volunteers. But what do they all have in common? They want to help and see a change in their communities so that our young people are well positioned for the future. They all believe in the power of the model, and they trust United Way to mobilize and deliver. I want to thank all the folks for their generous support in our city, our province, our business community, the social sector, and leaders in our community. We are making this happen. And we are grateful for the support of the Public Health Agency of Canada for their investment in Planet Youth, And of course, to our partners with the Planet Youth Guidance Program in Iceland. We couldn't be doing this without you. But for me, the most meaningful thing is the stories that we hear from our youth. This year, I met Karma, and he loved using our outdoor basketball courts in his neighborhood with his friends. However, the basketball court is run down, the paint had faded, and it had lots of inappropriate graffiti. So the younger kids no longer felt safe to play there. But Karma took charge. He contacted the Planet Youth team in his neighborhood. He made a good case to upgrade the court. He's a good salesperson. So United Way, Shell Canada, and Calgary Surge, our local basketball team, became involved. We empowered the youth to lead a basketball refresh project, and now it's a place of pride and belonging. I saw Karma just last week, and he felt so empowered. His passion for his community and the safety of the younger kids in the neighborhood really shone through. It's so much more than a basketball court, isn't it? It's a safe place to be, a space for connecting with peers, a space for recreation, and most importantly, a place that builds a sense of inclusion and belonging for our young people. Karma's story is just one example of the thousands of lives we're touching with Planet Youth. So imagine Planet Youth at scale. Imagine what we can achieve. So as we connect here today, both in person and online, we're excited to explore how can we spread this impact across Canada. And so throughout the day, please take a moment to think about your own communities, your own schools, and the young people around you. How can we team up to unlock the potential in every young person, remove the obstacles they face, and build a brighter future for the next generation? Together, I believe we can turn these challenges into victories and create a wave of positive change that echoes across Canada for years to come. I hope you'll join me. It's up to us, and so let's make it happen. Thank you very much for having me, and I hope you have a great conference.